Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's DRATEC webinar. I'm Alex Schuker, CTO at DRATEC UK and Ireland, and joining me to present today is Mihai, one of our technical account managers. The topic Mihai is covering today is monitoring and reporting capabilities of VigorACS 3. Mihai's specialization is VigorACS, and I'm sure some of you would have previously attended one of his drop-in sessions on VigorACS. And if you haven't and are interested to, then just pop a message in the go to webinar question box and we'll contact you afterwards. Alternatively, you could email info@dratec.co.uk. Just some notes on today's presentation. This is designed for all DRATEC product users. It's a deep dive into VigorACS 3 monitoring and reporting, and we'll give a bit of a demo of how we use it. So by watching this webinar, you'll to see VigorACS, see the screens, and how you'd use it. So hopefully it'll be very informative for you. We're recording this webinar and we will make it available for streaming on the site afterwards. So we'll send you a follow-up link with that so you can pass that to any colleagues, or if you end up getting cut short, you'll be able to get a download of that to watch that back later. Please do ask any questions in the chat function that I showed before. You can ask them throughout at any point because we've got people who can answer directly. And just finally, we've got a Q&A summary once the session's completed. So just a bit on the agenda. So the presentation Mihai's going over today is VigorACS monitoring and reporting. It will start with a bit of an introduction to VigorACS. There's been a few versions, so we'll run through that to give you a bit of the history and the differences in the versions. And then we'll go through all the different parts of ACS that are relevant to the monitoring and reporting, kind of network statistics, stuff to do with monitoring, also some specific stuff on SD-WAN and how those capabilities give you enhanced visibility of what's going on the site, and also some stuff about how you can monitor devices, see what's happening on each individual device, and how you can get reporting as well, and set tasks so you can get customized reports and information on your whole estate. Then at the end, we'll cover a Q&A session, and that's kind of everything. So I think that's enough from me. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to your presenter for today, Mihai.
A very good morning to everyone and welcome to today's presentation. My name is Mihai Krisu and I will be your host for the rest of the webinar. Let's quickly have a look at what ACS is used for, a brief history of ACS, and also to some notions of SD-WAN. I'm pretty sure everybody here knows what ACS is, but just to reiterate that ACS is a cloud-based management solution that can be accessed from anywhere, and there is no theoretical limit on how many devices you can manage from there. You can use the platform for provisioning, feature that allows you to do certain changes globally, meaning that, as an example, if you want to change the admin password on all your devices at once, you can use the provisioning facility to achieve this. You can also monitor your devices, see the connected clients on these devices, and have a better understanding of which clients are connected to which network and for how long did they do so. If a device loses connection to the ACS server, then an alarm will be produced and an email will be generated that will inform you about the current status of the device. Schedule maintenance gives you the ability to schedule a firmware upgrade and apply the upgrade on all your devices at once at a certain moment in time. You can also schedule a configuration backup that can be set as a cycle backup, for instance, every 2 weeks on all your devices. There are dozens of reports that can be created, such as LAN or WAN or traffic overview, firmware overview, and many others, and we'll be doing a deep dive on this subject later in today's presentation. So what is ACS used for? DRATEC devices can be managed by VigorACS Central Management System from the cloud or as a self-hosted platform. And it can manage most of the DRATEC products, routers, wireless access points, and Ethernet switches, giving you a complete visibility and control of your DRATEC product estate, even without a DRATEC router at the edge. Let's quickly have a look to a brief history of ACS. And let's start with VigorACS SI, also called VigorACS 1, which was primarily designed for routers. And at that time, it was a powerful centralized management system, which allowed system integrators to manage their estate in a more convenient way. Also TR69 based VigorACS 1, it used to help the user maintain the configuration of the devices. As a value-added service, the system integrator used ACS to assist the customer with setting up VPN connection, voice over IP services, and cost down customer maintenance fee by collecting real-time data from VigorACS 1. VigorACS 2, which probably everybody here knows about, improves a lot on top of VigorACS 1, where the entire structure was replaced by a very user-friendly interface and the added option to manage the entire DRATEC estate, not only routers, but access points and switches as well. VigorACS 3 is the latest version of DRATEC network management system. It supports all current DRATEC routers, access points, and switches, providing you with an integrated platform for configuration, monitoring, and management. VigorACS 3 is also the core of the SD-WAN solution, and we'll be looking at some SD-WAN monitoring components on today's webinar. Let's make sure everybody here understands what SD-WAN stands for. First of all, many vendors implement this terminology in various ways. So what SD-WAN means for DRATEC doesn't mean the same thing for other vendors. If you are accustomed to ACS2, then ACS3 brings the following new features. SD-WAN, obviously, which is a technology that redefines the logical and functional architecture of your WAN components. Features addressed by SD-WAN include quality-driven dashboard. The quality of every WAN or VPN interface is measured by latency, loss, and jitter. Quality-driven dashboards help the network admins to understand the reliability of each interface in one glance. VoIP MOS and SLAs. Every VoIP call is monitored by MOS, latency, loss, and jitter. And MOS stands for mean option score. With a call history list, network admins can easily retrieve information for calls with poor quality. VoIP experience optimization. Based on the previous section, or based on these interface quality records, VigorACS3 can adjust the metric to ensure that all edge routers always use the best quality interface for VoIP to optimize the VoIP experience. Application visibility and SD-WAN policy. The visibility provides the network admins with detailed network insights to understand data usage from each single client, via which WAN, to which application, at what time, and we'll have a look at this in a moment. Auto VPN, hub and spoke or full mesh. This is a very important component of SD-WAN. And by using this feature, we are able to establish VPN tunnels in a snap using the hub and spoke or full mesh models. Not necessarily part of SD-WAN, but ACS3 has a hotspot portal server as well. You probably know that DRATEC operating system routers, they do have a hotspot web portal which supports various authentication methods such as Facebook or Google. ACS3 can achieve this too in a more centralized manner. All right, guys, let's now move to some practical examples. Let's have a look to the ACS3 user interface, network statistics, and network monitoring. Without further ado, I will share my screen. I hope everybody can easily see my screen. And just to let you know, if you are already accustomed to ACS2, then ACS3 should be ready to use out of the box basically for you. However, that doesn't mean the platform is not easy to understand or easy to work with. Looking on the left hand side, we have the top menu, which represents the device menu and the network menu as well. This is formed from statistics, monitoring, configuration, and hotspot web portal. And the bottom menu is where all the ACS features are residing. We can see the map that has been set by me on the network management. So you can select a location for all your devices when you go to network management. And on the right hand side, we have a device overview classified by network devices. So we can see routers, access points, and switches on the screen. Right down below, there is a top 20 device ranking, let's call it, in terms of traffic utilization. So out of the 4 routers that we can see in there, one has the most amount of traffic when compared to the rest. And on the bottom left, we can see the total clients on that network. The same goes for the actual device. So we are now on the network menu, but we can change that to the device menu by just selecting one of the available devices. We wait for just a few seconds for the ACS server to be able to pull the information that we are seeing right now, and that has been successfully pulled. On the top right, the left hand side, we can see the actual router and the ports that are in use on this router. Right underneath, we have details such as uptime, MAC address. In some cases, you can see the serial number of that device in here as well. On the top right hand side, we have a WAN overview. If on the router we can see this in megabits per second, on ACS we will be seeing a translation of that on megabytes per second. The good news about this is on the actual router, if you navigate to diagnostics and traffic graph, you can see the data on the total amount of data that has been used for a particular WAN link. However, if you reboot the device, that data is going to be lost. And yeah, that's not the case with ACS. The ACS, we're going to keep historical data about what happened on a particular device. Down below, we can see the system resources such as CPU and memory usage. This translates in the same manner as it does on the actual router. And the port status, which is also very important. We can see which ports are up and what devices are connected to which port. Let's move back to the network menu by selecting the network. And now I would like to cover the network statistics. We are currently onto the dashboard of the network, so we can navigate to statistics on the left-hand side. I particularly like this section of ACS. I find it very useful. So at the top left-hand side, the statistics are set for the last 24 hours, but as you can easily see, this can be customized. On the right hand side, we have the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz radios, and we can see how many clients are connected to each. This is a total uh, amount of SSIDs that are residing on all your devices that are in that network. Moreover, you can see which operating systems your clients are using. And my favorite bit is the bottom bit called client ranking. And why is this my favorite? Is because uh, maybe on some network it's allowed to have huge amount of data, such as home network, where users are usually doing streaming or playing games. That's going to generate a lot of data. But if the network is an office network, then we shouldn't be seeing here more than a couple of gig over a 24-hour period. So if you are not seeing that, and that's an office network, and there are 100 gigabytes, let's say, then something is wrong. And what to do next is identify where that client is connected to. By copying their MAC address and now navigating to monitoring clients, we can search for that client and see where that client is connected to. Imagine that you might have a network formed of hundreds of devices. To identify a client, you can only use this particular feature. And now we can see we found this client. It's connected to the 2927 webinar router and is currently wired. And the connection time is 1 day and 4 hours since it has been online, and the total amount of traffic is 3.3 gigabytes, which is okay in some cases, but it can be problematic in other cases. Moreover, we can expand the monitoring tool again, and we can move to devices. This is going to bring all the available devices on our network on one screen. You can expand the row to 100 if you have loads of them, or you can use the arrows to move across screens. This is a very important screen because in a snap you can see what's the firmware status. If you see an amber instead of a green, that means the device it might not be on the latest firmware. Also, we are getting some nice information out of this screen, such as how many wireless clients are and how many wired clients are on a particular device. Again, total amount of traffic on a specified period of time, and so on and so forth. Now, logs. In my opinion, there are three very important logs that always can be checked on a regular basis. One of which is CPE notify. So the actual CPE, which is a router or an access point, reports to the ACS server who logs in onto the actual device and what changes they are doing onto that device. And if you want to get such data from the CPE side to the ACS, well, there is a little section that you might have omitted on the router. I will now log in on a 2927 router and show you where to enable the CPE notify log. I'll go to system maintenance TR069, and we have three tabs in here, one of which is the actual profile. Reporting configuration is the CPE notification settings that I was talking about. And you want to have that enabled for web login, so who logs in on the router. Imagine that you have multiple admin accounts, then you'll be able to see who that user was and what section of the configuration they have altered. All right, all these reside, and we can see user called admin logged in. They've performed some configuration changes on the management, on the firewall rules. So it's pretty comprehensive in terms of what the device is reporting to the ACS server. Another log type that I'd like to mention is file transfer. This is important because we usually automate configuration backup and we want to see if those were successfully taken from the CPE. We currently can see that all the backups that are happening onto this server are successful. And also, if you schedule a firmware upgrade over the weekend, Monday morning when you come to the office, you would like to see if the firmware upgrade was applied successfully. Another important log type would be set parameter. If with the CPE notify, the ACS server gets notified of who logs in and what changes they do on the device. With set parameter, it's kind of the other way around. So if you perform a change on a CPE using ACS, then you will find a record of that in here. Also, if you are using global provisioning, you will find the record of those parameters being applied to the devices under this log type. So those were the three log types that I wanted to cover. Alarms. Obviously, if a device loses connections to the ACS server is gonna assume that the device is offline and therefore is gonna generate an alarm and an email that's gonna inform you of the actual status of the device. Okay, let's now move to the next section, which is network monitoring and device monitoring via using SD-WAN. I'll now share my screen where the ACS platform is, and I hope everybody can see that now. We are currently under the monitoring section, so I will expand that. And right at the bottom, we have data usage SD-WAN. Right at the bottom, we can see our network. We are currently having 4 devices on the network, and the application source overview is sorted by the total amount of traffic. Let's now select one of the available devices and see some real-time application monitoring. Right on the top left-hand side, we can sort the usage either via application or by client device. By default, it sits under application. And if we look on the right-hand side, we have the application categories. If we expand one of the categories, for instance, VoIP, we can see which applications that are using voice are currently used on this particular device. Or if we select instant messaging, you can see Facebook and Instagram were used. Right at the bottom, we have the raw data application. So if we are going back to the total amount of applications, scrolling down to the bottom, we can see the top 10, 15 applications that are being in use right now onto this device. Switching between application and client device, we can see the 2 devices that are currently connected to this router. Selecting one of the devices is going to bring us the applications that this device is currently using. If we select one of the application categories, for instance, instant messaging, we can see this device is using Facebook, WhatsApp, and Telegram as a mean for communication. And right at the bottom, we have the raw application data for this device. There is a traffic line chart that can be set to show either via upload and download or via the WAN interface. Okay, guys, we now reached the last section of today's webinar. We will be looking into reporting tasks, and customizing reports. I will now move back to the ACS platform, and we can navigate to the actual ACS features, one of which is reporting. Expanding reporting, we can see we have two types of reports: report tasks and snap reports. If we quickly look at snap reports, we can create a report and generate the report using an existing report type, such as traffic, firmware overview, network overview, status, information, or device configuration, which is also called customized reports. But let's test this with a firmware overview. We get a sub-menu on the firmware, which is allowing us to select a few options. We will select firmware overview to run a report, and we don't want to filter any device, so we'll leave this section untouched. One thing that's left to do is to select the network that we want to run the report on and query the report, thus bringing us a PDF file with the desired outcome, which is firmware overview. Now that we know how to run a snap report, let's see how we use the report tasks. The main difference between the two is that with report tasks, you can select a report to be auto-generated on a cycle basis. So you want to receive a report about firmware every week, every Monday, to understand what's the current status of the firmware version throughout your estate. How we do this is by creating a new report task, or we can edit an existing one. Obviously, we'll give a title to this task, and the report content is going to be firmware overview or device configuration. And we want the report delivery to be sent by email. Now we have some options in terms of file extensions: PDF, CSV, Excel, or Word. And we want to run the report on repeat. And this is on a weekly basis, starting with Wednesday. Underneath, we have an email subject and the email from. So where is this email coming from? The email content, and also who this email is addressed to, so the recipient. And right down at the bottom, we must select the network that we want to run this repeat report on, and save. Now that we know how to run snap reports or how to create report tasks, we can move to customizing reports or device configuration. Obviously, you need to know what would you like to report. For instance, maybe you would like to report something like, what's the HTTPS port throughout my estate? Well, the way of doing that is by selecting a device to start with, so you can navigate to your network and select a device. And now, onto the device's configuration, you can run to advanced parameter tree, and this is going to bring us all the TR69 parameters that are available on this device. These parameters are used by ACS and the device to communicate. Also, we can run a report using one of these parameters. I've mentioned earlier, if you'd like, for instance, to inspect what's the HTTPS port throughout your estate, then obviously you need to go to system maintenance, because there is where the management side is. Management port. And now we can see the HTTPS port parameter. We can select the parameter and copy the parameter. That has now been copied to my clipboard. Therefore, I can go down to reports and select a snap report. Again, we can create a report. The only difference this time is we'll select device configuration as report type. And we can paste the parameter in here. You can add more parameters. So you can generate a report based on more parameters if you want. One last thing left to do is to select the network that we will run the report on and query that. Bear in mind that this might take a while since the ACS is doing a live inspection of the HTTPS port throughout your estate. So it's not the same as with the already existing reports that are available in there. And now we have a result. We can zoom in and we can see the result throughout the estate. It's 443, which is expected, or it may not be expected. Okay, right before I hand over to my colleague Alex for further announcements, let's summarize what we covered today. So we looked at network monitoring. We understand that how important is the monitoring to monitor the activity on the network and understand if there are any anomalies, such as users generating huge amounts of traffic, and how we identify which devices those clients are connected to, which network devices basically. We looked at SD-WAN application monitoring, and with this feature, the monitoring goes further and provides the user with detailed real-time data about the applications that are being used on the network. And finally, reporting and customization. We just looked at snap reporting and the available and report tasks, and we went through the process. We went through the process of customizing reports. I will now hand over to Alex, who is going to do a further announcement and also the Q&A session.
Thank you, Mihai. So before we do the Q&A, I just wanted to cover something on the VigorACS 3 Cloud Premium launch. We are launching that today. So now any signups for VigorACS Premium will automatically, from now on, go on to the VigorACS 3 server. So if anyone signs up on the URL, I've put the URL down there, but we'll also include that in the follow-up email for you as well. But you can sign up there. You don't have to select VigorACS 3. It's just the Cloud Premium option automatically becomes VigorACS 3. If you already have an account, then we will be upgrading you. You've got a couple of options there. If you don't want to wait, then just contact us if you'd like to get an upgrade immediately, and we can guide you through that. It basically would involve a migration from the existing server to the new one, because we're adding in an additional server. So we can guide you through that process, and that allow you to upgrade kind of now to the ACS 3 server. But alternatively, if you want to stay on the existing server, that will be upgraded to ACS 3. That's currently scheduled for around the 9th of May. What we're going to do is be sending a follow-up contact to all the people who have VigorACS 3 premium accounts, and we will be contacting everyone to give them details on what's happening. There might be a little bit of implication for some existing models. Some very old models won't support ACS 3, but we'll be giving the details. But they're really quite old models. We don't believe there's that many in use on the ACS 2 server. But if that does affect you, then we will be able to talk through what your options are on that. So that's everything on the VigorACS 3 Premium. I'll now go to the Q&A. So we can bring in some panelists now. We've got Mihai here and also Julian, who can help with answering some of the questions. We've had quite a few questions during the presentation. So thank you everyone for putting your questions in. You can keep putting questions in. We're on hand to answer those directly. But what we'll do to start off with is run through some of the questions that have been asked earlier and go through some of those. So the first question is to do with when will the free version of VigorACS for dealers, which is sometimes called VigorACS Standard, when will that be upgraded to ACS 3? So the answer to that is quite similar to the ACS 2.1. We're planning on upgrading that server by the 9th of May. So that's when it'll, on ACS Standard, will go up to ACS 3. We'll be sending out some details on that. Another question is quite similar. When will the VigorACS 2 Premium be upgraded to ACS 3? So that's also planned for the 9th of May, and we'll be sending a notification for users with more information. And another kind of question is, as an existing kind of customer, how do you migrate to ACS 3? So the answer to that's similar to the ones before, but I'll just cover it for all the different variations. So it depends on what type of server you have. If you're on Cloud Premium, then contact info@DRATEC if you'd like to migrate immediately. Alternatively, it will be done a bit later on that 9th of May date. If you're on self-hosted, then you can upgrade ACS 2 to ACS 3 yourself immediately. Just contact support or your account manager, and they'll be able to provide you with the installation files, and your license would then automatically be converted from ACS 2 to ACS 3. And if you're on Cloud Standard, as I mentioned before, that's going to, we're scheduling upgrading that entirely to ACS 3 by around the 9th of May. So another question is about SD-WAN. So the question there is kind of what are the full capabilities of SD-WAN, because different vendors, the comment here is that seem to mean different things by SD-WAN. So I think the best answer to that is we do have a specific video on VigorACS 3 SD-WAN. I will post that in the chat so that you can get it, but also we'll leave that, we'll include it in the follow-up. So I'm posting that there, so you can watch that video, which goes into some details of the benefits of SD-WAN and the nuts and bolts of all of that. So hopefully that should answer that question. Another question here is to do with people improving kind of automation. So it's a question about how does someone get started with kind of utilizing some of the things that Mihai showed to help improve their kind of processes, especially from an MSP point of view, with reducing kind of site visits and being able to do things in bulk and kind of monitor things and get similar configs or firmware upgrade. So I think I might pass that question over to Julian to answer if you're there, Julian.
I'm indeed. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Alex, and also thank you, Mihai, for an excellent presentation. A really good overview. Yeah. So I think as many of you will see, this is quite a comprehensive tool. Many things you can do, many different ways of doing the various options you've got. We do extensive work with some large ISPs and MSPs where we fine-tune the ACS to make sure it works exactly how a particular organization requires it. We often talk about reducing the total cost of ownership, being proactive about seeing a problem before it occurs, taking corrective action that prevents the expensive man in the van type business. And of course, depending on the organization, they will look at this in different ways. There'll be very specific things that are pertinent to them. So what I'm basically saying is we can really help you here. If you just reach out to us, if you just mail info@dratec.co.uk, if you've got my details, Julian Hubble, yeah, please do send me an email as well. But we'll get one of our experts on this working with you to help you work through those specific requirements. Obviously, Mihai is one of those individuals. We also have other individuals in the organisation specialising in this one of them being Joe, who many of you may well indeed know. So yeah, don't be shy. If you want some help on this, please do reach out, and we'll happily give you some assistance in getting it just right for you.
Okay, Julian, thanks. And what's the best way for them to actually? One way to reach out is if you're in the webinar currently, just send a message in as a question, and we can contact you afterwards to put you in contact with the right people. But alternatively, I guess they can contact their account manager, or if they're not sure, then just email info@dratech.co.uk.
Yeah, I just said info at
Yeah.
dratech.co.uk is the catch-all for everything. But yeah, by all means, put something in the chat message or leave a
Okay.
comment, or
Good.
if you know
Thank
your account
you.
manager, just reach out to that. Absolutely, thank you.
Right, I've got now I think a question for Mihai. So the question is to do with specifics of getting devices in. They're wondering, will it work for all different scenarios of WAN connection, because they've got a device that's behind another router. They've got a router behind a router, and they want to know if that will work. I guess a similar thing is if you've got an AP or a switch behind a router. So Mihai, can you kind of cover that one, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Very good question. And yes, indeed, it helps a lot with double NAT devices. It can be LTE or a router behind another router. The only thing you have to do is enable stun on the TR69 profile. And since the ACS server acts as a stun server, you can just add the ACS server URL on the stun settings, basically, and that's gonna give you access to the device, although it's behind NAT via ACS, obviously.
Okay, thanks, Mihai. That's good. And there's a couple more technical questions, but first I just want to cover a question on pricing. So questions is about what's the pricing for VigorACS 3, and that's an easy one to answer. The pricing is the same as VigorACS 2 when it comes to the pricing, so it's the same price list, so everything's unchanged on that. So that's good.
May I make a mention
Yes.
about that's actually cheaper to run than ACS2, since switches and access points count as half a node, meaning that if you have a 20 node license on ACS3, you can potentially manage 40 access points or 40 switches, whereas with ACS2 you can't do that. So it's cheaper, although it's the same price per node, it's cheaper on the longer run if you are using APs. And yeah.
That's a very good point. So like if you have two APs, they count as half a node each, so that counts as one node. So when you're purchasing your license, you do it in total number of nodes, but each AP and switch only counts as half the node. You're quite right there, Mihai. So yeah, it does work out a little bit cheaper in some ways then. Good.
Well, I have 50% off, basically.
Yeah. And there's a question about the kind of pricing. So the pricing model is you pay for each node per year, but you can at any point extend the number of nodes you have. So if you want to kind of midterm add additional nodes on, you can request that, and you just pay for the proportion of the year you've got left. So if you kind of 6 months in to your 12-month license, add some new nodes, you basically essentially pay half for those nodes because you're only using them for the half of the year, and the annual renewal just is on the global license that you have. It works out for when your license starts. It keeps renewing each year. And there's some other. I'm just looking through some of the questions in there to see if there's any other questions to go through. There's some quite technical ones that might be better doing separately. But I did see something about a question about SD-WAN. How do you enable SD-WAN? Mihai was with the question. How do you get SD-WAN started on a device? So if you've got it in ACS3, does it happen automatically, or is there? How do you get the SD-WAN reporting started?
SD-WAN reporting, yeah. So the SD-WAN has to be enabled on the network. So under network management, when you select one of your networks or your only network, you'd be able to either enable or disable SD-WAN. And without going into many details, there are a few guides online. So if you do a quick search on DRATEC SD-WAN guide or DRATEC SD-WAN setup, you should be able to. It's quite easy to enable. And then this applies, by the way. So if you want to do SD-WAN monitoring, such as application monitoring, this is covered only on the current DRATEC devices, so 2927, 2866, 2865, and so on. So all the devices are not covered by SD-WAN, but obviously those can be managed just as good from ACS3 as they were on ACS2.
Right. Okay, and so when you enable it on the network, it will send the required configuration changes up to the devices themselves, so they don't need to be changed manually. They just get changed by ACS to enable that
So
level of
you
report.
don't need to do anything on the device. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Mihai. I see it's got to 1:45, so I think that's good timing-wise. So I just wanted to thank everyone for attending today. We hope you found it informative, and thank you very much, Mihai, for your presentation. And thank you, everyone, for the questions. We'll continue answering some of the questions directly. There's a few that are kind of quite specific to individual users that we'll reply to directly. And if you don't get a response on the chat directly, we'll I think be contacting you via email just to give you an answer to your question. But that's everything from us, and we'll send a follow-up with the link to the recording once that's ready. It'll probably be in a day or two for us to cut that and then upload that and then send a follow-up to everyone. So thank you very much for attending, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're looking forward to your feedback as well. And what other webinars would you like to see? And all the best. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.